Cassandra Bennett pressed her forehead against the cold window of the downtown bus, watching the city lights blur into streams of gold and white. Her fingers clutched a crumpled envelope containing the final notice from her landlord. 7 days. That was all she had left before her belongings would be on the sidewalk and her small studio apartment would belong to someone who could actually afford it. The art gallery job had fallen through 3 weeks ago. Budget cuts, they said. The restaurant shifts barely covered her groceries. Her degree in fine arts from community college meant nothing in a world that wanted MBA graduates and corporate experience. Cass had sent out 47 job applications in 2 weeks. 47 rejections, each one a fresh wound to her already battered confidence. She stepped off the bus at Fifth Avenue, heading toward the one luxury she still allowed herself. A single coffee at the Meridian Cafe, where she could sit by the window and pretend she belonged in this world of success and stability. The cafe smelled of espresso and fresh pastries. Cass ordered her usual black coffee and found her favorite corner table. The conversation that changed everything. At the table beside her, a woman in an ivory blazer was speaking rapidly into her phone. Her designer handbag sat on the chair, and diamond earrings caught the afternoon light. Cass tried not to stare, but something about the woman's agitated tone drew her attention. "Mother, I already told you. I am not taking that interview." The woman's voice carried across the quiet space. Gregory proposed. "We are moving to Paris next month for his new position at the embassy. My career here does not matter anymore." Cass pretended to read her book, but every word sank into her consciousness like a stone dropping into still water. "Yes, Sterling Tech Empire. Yes, I know Victor Sterling is brilliant. I do not care if it is the opportunity of a lifetime." The woman sighed dramatically. "I already emailed them this morning. Natalie Winters will not be attending. They will find another executive assistant." Cass's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. Sterling Tech Empire. She knew that name. Everyone knew that name. Victor Sterling had revolutionized cybersecurity technology and built a billion-dollar empire by age 30. His company was expanding into artificial intelligence, clean energy, and biotechnology. Working there would be a dream come true for anyone in the business world. The woman gathered her things, still complaining about her mother's disappointment. "I have a wedding to plan. Tell Aunt Susan I will call her later. Goodbye, Mother." As the woman left, Cass sat frozen in her chair. Her mind raced through the possibilities, each one more dangerous than the last. Natalie Winters had cancelled. What if Cass showed up instead? What if she walked into that interview and pretended to be someone she was not? It was fraud. It was criminal. It was absolutely insane. It was also possibly her only chance at survival. The research begins. Cass spent the next 3 hours in the public library, hunched over a computer terminal. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she searched for everything about Natalie Winters. The woman had a digital footprint that told a clear story. Master's degree in business administration from Cornell University. 5 years as a project coordinator at Quantum Dynamics. Certifications in management and strategic planning. Volunteer work with literacy programs. Cass studied photographs, memorizing the tilt of Natalie's smile and the way she dressed. They were similar in height and build. Both had dark hair, though Natalie's was professionally styled while Cass usually wore hers in a simple ponytail. With the right clothes and makeup, Cass could pass for her. Maybe. Her phone buzzed with a text from Devin, her roommate. "Where are you? Rent is due in 3 days. Do we have a plan?" Cass stared at the message. A plan. Yes, she had a plan now. A terrible, reckless, possibly life-destroying plan. She typed back, "Working on something. Trust me." Standing at the edge. The next morning, Cass stood outside the Sterling Tower, a gleaming structure of glass and steel that seemed to pierce the sky itself. She wore her only good outfit. A charcoal gray dress she had bought for job interviews and black heels that pinched her toes. She had curled her hair, applied makeup with a steady hand despite her shaking nerves, and practiced her confident walk in the mirror until it looked natural. Now, staring up at the building, doubt crashed over her like a wave. This was wrong. This was fraud. If they discovered the truth, she would face criminal charges. Her life would be ruined even more thoroughly than it already was. But then she remembered the eviction notice. She remembered the empty refrigerator and the disconnection warning from the electric company. She remembered every rejection email that had cited her lack of credentials. Cassandra Bennett had nothing left to lose. She straightened her shoulders and walked through the revolving doors. The lobby took her breath away. Marble floors reflected the light from massive chandeliers. A water feature ran along one wall, and modern sculptures stood like sentries throughout the space. Everything spoke of wealth, power, and success. Everything she was not. "May I help you?" The receptionist smiled professionally. "I have an interview with Mr. Sterling." Cass's voice came out steady, confident. "Natalie Winters." The receptionist checked her computer and nodded. 42nd floor. The executive suite. "Mr. Sterling is expecting you." The point of no return. The elevator ride felt endless. Cass watched the numbers climb, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. When the doors opened, a young man with kind eyes and a tablet greeted her. "Ms. Winters? I am Owen Park, Mr. Sterling's junior assistant. Please follow me." They walked down a corridor lined with awards and framed magazine covers featuring Victor Sterling's face. Handsome, serious, intense. In every photo, his dark eyes seemed to look straight through the camera. Cass had read about him obsessively last night. Self-made billionaire. Genius inventor. Notoriously demanding boss. 3 assistants had quit in the past year alone. Owen stopped at a massive oak door. "Good luck, Ms. Winters. He can be intimidating, but he is fair." The door opened, and Cass stepped into her future, built entirely on lies. Victor Sterling stood with his back to the door, hands clasped behind him as he studied the city sprawling below his window. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across his office, a space that seemed designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 walls, minimalist furniture in black and chrome, and a desk that looked like it cost more than most cars. When he turned, Cassandra forgot to breathe. The photographs had not captured the full force of his presence. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, with broad shoulders that filled out his tailored navy suit perfectly. Dark hair swept back from a face that was all sharp angles and intensity. But it was his eyes that held her captive. Steel gray, intelligent, and penetrating. Eyes that seemed to see everything. "Ms. Winters." His voice was deep, controlled, with an edge that suggested he did not waste time on pleasantries. "Please sit." Cass lowered herself into the leather chair across from his desk, crossing her ankles the way she had seen professional women do in movies. Her hands rested in her lap to hide their trembling. Victor sat as well, opening a folder on his desk. "Your credentials are impressive. Cornell MBA, project management experience at Quantum Dynamics, strategic planning certifications." He looked up, those gray eyes locking onto hers. "Tell me why you want to leave a stable position for what many consider an impossible job." Cass's mind raced. She knew nothing about quantum dynamics beyond what she had read online. "I believe in challenging myself," she said carefully. "Stability is comfortable, but comfort does not lead to growth. Your company is at the forefront of innovation. I want to be part of something that matters." Noble sentiments. Victor leaned back, studying her with an expression she could not read. "My last 3 assistants quit because they said I was impossible to work with." I demand excellence. I expect my team to anticipate my needs before I voice them. I work 18-hour days, and I need someone who can match that pace." He paused. "What makes you think you can handle this position?" This, at least, Cass could answer honestly. "I am adaptable and resilient. I learn quickly, and I do not give up when things get difficult. I have worked multiple jobs simultaneously while completing my education. I understand dedication. Have you?" Victor's eyes narrowed slightly. "Tell me about your thesis project at Cornell." Cass's heart stopped. She had no idea what Natalie's thesis had been about. "My thesis focused on organizational behavior in high-stress environments," she said, keeping her voice steady. "Specifically, how leadership styles impact employee retention during periods of rapid growth." It was a gamble, generic enough to be believable. Victor studied her for a long moment, and Cass felt certain he could see through her deception. But then he nodded. "The position is yours if you want it. Salary is $220,000 annually, plus benefits and performance bonuses. You start Monday." The first week of deception. Monday morning arrived with cruel swiftness. Cass stood in her new office, adjacent to Victor's, and felt the weight of her lies pressing down on her shoulders. The space was beautiful, with a glass desk, ergonomic chair, and a view of the city that made her dizzy. Devon had lent her money for professional clothes, and Cass had spent Sunday watching videos on executive assistant duties. Owen appeared in her doorway with a warm smile. "Welcome to the team, Natalie. Let me show you the systems." The next 4 hours were a blur of passwords, protocols, and procedures. Cass took notes frantically, terrified of forgetting a single detail. Victor's schedule was demanding. Back-to-back meetings, conference calls with international partners, and somehow he still found time to review every major decision personally. "He trusts no one completely," Owen confided during lunch. "Not since his former partner tried to steal his patents 3 years ago. That is why he is so hands-on with everything." Cass filed that information away. Victor Sterling was a man who had been betrayed. The irony was not lost on her. Her first real test came on Wednesday. Victor called her into his office at 7 in the evening. Most of the staff had gone home, but the executive floor was still humming with activity. "I need the financial projections for the Tokyo expansion," Victor said without looking up from his computer. "The ones Patterson was supposed to send this morning." Cass had no idea who Patterson was or where to find those projections. "I will get them immediately," she said, keeping her voice calm. She spent the next 20 minutes frantically searching the company database, calling 3 different departments, and finally tracking down Patterson in accounting. By the time she placed the printed report on Victor's desk, her blouse was damp with nervous sweat. Victor glanced at the report, then at her. "Next time, have it ready before I ask." "Understood." Cass turned to leave. "Natalie." His voice stopped her at the door. "Good work today." The unexpected praise made her chest tighten with guilt and something else. Something dangerous. Cracks in the armor. 3 weeks into her new position, Cass had developed a rhythm. She arrived at 6 each morning and rarely left before 9 at night. She studied company files like they were sacred texts, memorized names and faces, and learned to anticipate Victor's needs with increasing accuracy. The work was exhausting, but the paycheck had saved her from homelessness. She had paid her rent, stocked her refrigerator, and even started a small savings account. But the hardest part was not the work. It was Victor himself. He was demanding, yes. Perfectionist, absolutely. But he was also brilliant, driven, and occasionally, when he forgot to maintain his walls, surprisingly human. Late one Thursday night, Cass brought him coffee and found him staring at architectural plans spread across his desk. "My brother thinks I am insane," Victor said without preamble. "He says expanding into renewable energy is too risky." That I should stick with what works. Cass set down the coffee. What do you think? I think playing it safe is how companies die. Victor looked up at her, and for the first time, she saw fatigue in his eyes. Everything I have built came from taking risks everyone else thought were foolish. Then trust your instincts, Cass said quietly. They have not failed you yet. Victor studied her for a long moment. You are different from my previous assistants. They were competent, but they never challenged me. Never offered real opinions. Would you prefer I just agree with everything you say? A hint of a smile touched his lips. No. I would not. That smile did something to Cass's carefully maintained defenses. She realized with growing alarm that she was becoming attached to this man. Not just attracted to his obvious physical appeal, but genuinely interested in his thoughts, his struggles, his rare moments of vulnerability. When professional becomes personal. The shift happened gradually, like ice melting in spring. Victor started asking her opinion on matters beyond scheduling and logistics. They debated business strategies over late-night takeout. He told her about growing up poor, about building his first computer from scavenged parts, about the hunger that still drove him even after achieving everything most people dreamed of. Cass found herself sharing carefully edited versions of her own story. Her struggles, her dreams of being an artist, her determination to prove herself. She could not tell him the whole truth, but she gave him pieces of herself that were real. One evening in late October, they were alone in his office reviewing proposals for a new research facility. Victor's jacket was draped over his chair, his sleeves rolled up, revealing strong forearms. Cass sat beside him rather than across from him, their shoulders nearly touching as they studied the documents. This one, Victor said, pointing to a design. What do you think? It is impressive, Cass admitted. But it feels cold. Clinical. If you want to attract top talent, the space should inspire them. Make them feel like they are part of something revolutionary, not just working in another sterile lab. Victor turned to look at her, and Cass realized how close they were. She could see flecks of silver in his gray eyes, could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. You are right, he said softly. You usually are. The air between them shifted, charged with an electricity that made Cass's breath catch. Victor's gaze dropped to her lips, and for one heart-stopping moment, she thought he might kiss her. Instead, he stood abruptly. It is late. You should go home. Cass gathered her things, her hands shaking. As she reached the door, Victor spoke again. Natalie. He hesitated, something flickering across his face. Thank you. For everything. Cass smiled, even as guilt twisted in her stomach. Good night, Victor. Outside his office, she leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. She was falling for him. Despite every warning she had given herself, despite knowing this could only end in disaster, she was falling hopelessly in love with Victor Sterling. And when he discovered the truth, it would destroy them both. Friday afternoon brought an unexpected visitor to Sterling Tech Empire. Cass was organizing files when Patricia Huang, the head of HR, appeared in her doorway with a man Cass had never seen before. He was middle-aged, wearing an ill-fitting suit, with sharp eyes that reminded her of a predator sizing up prey. Natalie, this is Detective Raymond Cole from the Corporate Fraud Division, Patricia said, her expression unreadable. He needs to ask you some routine questions about our hiring procedures. Cass's blood turned to ice. She forced a smile, praying her face did not betray her panic. Of course. How can I help? Detective Cole settled into the chair across from her desk, pulling out a notepad. Just verifying some background information. Standard procedure when companies of this size bring on new executives. You understand. Perfectly, Cass said, her mouth dry as sand. You attended Cornell University, correct? Graduated with your MBA in 2021? Yes. The lie came automatically now, smooth and practiced. And before Sterling Tech, you worked at Quantum Dynamics for 5 years? That is correct. Detective Cole scribbled something in his notepad. Thank you, Ms. Winters. Just one more thing. Could you provide your social security number for our records? There seems to be a discrepancy in the system. Cassa's heart hammered against her ribs. She did not know Natalie Winters' social security number. I can email that to HR this afternoon, she said carefully. I do not have it memorized. Of course. Cole stood, handing her his card. Please send it by end of business today. After they left, Cass sat frozen at her desk. This was it. The beginning of the end. She could not provide Natalie's social security number. Even if she somehow found it, the system would flag that someone else was already using it. Her deception was unraveling, thread by thread. Her phone buzzed with a text from Devon. Emergency. Call me now. Cass stepped into the empty conference room and dialed. Devon answered on the first ring. Cass, someone came by the apartment looking for you. Said her name was Natalie Winters. Devon's voice was tight with fear. She knows what you did. She is threatening to go to the police unless you pay her $50,000. The room spun. How did she find me? She hired a private investigator. Apparently, Sterling Tech contacted her for a reference check, and she figured out someone was using her identity. Devon paused. Cass, this is bad. Really bad. Cass leaned against the wall, fighting nausea. I need time to think. You do not have time. She wants the money by Monday, or she goes to the police and to Victor Sterling. After hanging up, Cass returned to her desk in a daze. $50,000. She had been working for 2 months and had barely saved $8,000. There was no way to get that kind of money. Her choices were simple. Confess to Victor herself or wait for Natalie to expose her. The confession. That evening, Cass found Victor still in his office, reviewing contracts. The city lights glittered behind him, and he looked tired in a way that made her heart ache. She thought about all their late-night conversations, the way he smiled at her ideas. The almost kiss that still kept her awake at night. Victor, can we talk? Her voice trembled despite her efforts to control it. He looked up, immediately alert. What is wrong? Cass closed the door and sat down, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you from the beginning. Victor set down his pen, his full attention on her now. Go on. My name is not Natalie Winters. The words came out in a rush. It is Cassandra Bennett. I am not an MBA graduate. I do not have 5 years of management experience. I overheard the real Natalie canceling her interview, and I showed up pretending to be her because I was desperate. I was about to be evicted. I had no money, no prospects, and I thought if I could just get my foot in the door, prove myself capable, then maybe it would not matter that I lied on paper. The silence that followed was deafening. Victor's face had gone completely blank, his eyes hard as granite. When he finally spoke, his voice was deadly calm. You lied to me. Yes. You committed fraud to get this position. Yes. Everything you told me about your background, your education, your experience. All lies. Cass felt tears burning behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not everything. My opinions, my ideas, the work I have done for you. That was all real. I may have lied about my credentials, but I never lied about my dedication or my abilities. Victor stood abruptly, turning his back to her. His hands gripped the edge of his desk, knuckles white. Do you have any idea what you have done? The legal implications? The risk you exposed my company to? I know, Cass whispered. I am so sorry. Sorry. Victor laughed, but there was no humor in it. You deceived me for months. Made me trust you. Made me think that you were someone I could rely on. He turned, and the pain in his eyes cut deeper than anger ever could. I told you things I have never told anyone else. And it was all based on a lie. My feelings for you were never a lie, Cass said, the words escaping before she could stop them. Victor's jaw tightened. Get out. Pack your things and leave. I will have security escort you out of the building. Consider yourself fortunate if I decide not to press charges. Victor, please. I said get out. His voice cracked like a whip, and Cass flinched. She stood on shaking legs and walked to the door. When she reached it, she turned back one last time. Victor stood silhouetted against the windows, looking more alone than she had ever seen him. For what it is worth, Cass said softly, working for you, knowing you, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Even if it cost me everything. She left before he could respond, tears finally streaming down her face. The aftermath. The next week was the darkest of Cass's life. Security had indeed escorted her from the building, her few personal belongings packed in a cardboard box. Devon held her while she cried, but even her best friend's support could not ease the hollow ache in her chest. The police came 3 days later. Natalie Winters had filed charges for identity theft and fraud. Cass sat across from Detective Cole in an interrogation room, answering questions with numb honesty. Yes, she had assumed Natalie's identity. Yes, she had lied on her application. Yes, she understood the severity of her actions. Mr. Sterling has declined to press corporate charges, Cole said, watching her carefully. But Ms. Winters is pursuing this personally. You are looking at potential jail time, Ms. Bennett. Cass nodded. She deserved this. She had known the risks from the beginning. What she had not expected was the letter that arrived 2 weeks later. It was from Victor's lawyer, but the message inside was handwritten. Cassandra, I have reached a settlement with Natalie Winters on your behalf. The charges will be dropped. In exchange, you will repay the salary you received through a payment plan and complete 200 hours of community service. You will also sign a non-disclosure agreement regarding your employment at Sterling Tech. My lawyer will contact you with the details. Victor. Cass read the letter 3 times, her hands shaking. He had saved her from prison. Even after everything, even after her betrayal, Victor had protected her. 6 months later. Spring arrived with cherry blossoms and warmer winds. Cass stood in a small art gallery in Brooklyn, adjusting the lighting on her paintings. After completing her community service teaching art to underprivileged children, she had discovered a passion for helping others find their creative voice. The gallery owner had given her a chance to display her work, and tonight was the opening reception. She wore a simple blue dress and had let her hair fall naturally around her shoulders. No more pretending to be someone she was not. Just Cassandra Bennett, struggling artist and convicted fraud, trying to rebuild her life one honest day at a time. These are beautiful. Cass's heart stopped. She turned slowly, and there he was. Victor Sterling, looking impossibly handsome in dark jeans and a gray sweater that matched his eyes. He stood in front of her favorite painting, a cityscape at twilight that she had created from memory of the view from his office. What are you doing here? Cass breathed. Devon told me about your show. Victor turned to face her. I hope you do not mind. I am surprised you came. After everything. Victor moved closer, his eyes searching her face. I was angry. Furious, actually. You betrayed my trust in the worst possible way. Cass nodded, tears threatening. I know. I am sorry. I will never stop being sorry. But then I thought about the work you did. The ideas you contributed. The nights you stayed late, the problems you solved, the way you challenged me to be better. Victor reached out, gently wiping a tear from her cheek. You may have lied about your credentials, Cassandra Bennett, but you never lied about who you really are. Smart, creative, determined, and brave enough to risk everything for a chance at something better. I do not deserve your forgiveness, Cass whispered. Maybe not. Victor smiled, and it was real, warm, the smile she had fallen in love with. But I am going to give it to you anyway. Because despite everything, despite the lies and the betrayal, I fell in love with you. The real you. Not Natalie Winters with her impressive resume, but Cass Bennett with her artist's heart and fighter's spirit. Cass's breath caught. You love me? I am probably insane, Victor admitted. My brother certainly thinks so. But yes, I love you. And if you are willing, I would like to start over. Properly this time. No lies, no deception. Just two people getting to know each other honestly. Cass laughed through her tears. I would like that very much. Victor pulled her close, and when he kissed her, it felt like coming home. Like redemption and second chances and all the beautiful, messy, honest things that make life worth living. So, Victor murmured against her lips. Tell me about your art. And this time, I want the whole truth. Cass smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in months. The whole truth? Well, it all started when I was 7 years old, and I discovered that crayons could create entire worlds. And under the soft gallery lights, surrounded by the art she had created from her own truth, Cassandra Bennett finally allowed herself to believe in happy endings. The end.